Oh, Smitty. What did you do now? You might as well face it, you're addicted to junk. Oh, we're missing a back wheel on that thing? Oh, good God in heaven. I am addicted to Copart. That's what I'm addicted to. So yeah, this is the stuff I never get a chance to video. So yeah, it got dropped off. Missing one back wheel. That front tire is flat. I got that holding air now. So I'm gonna jack it up, block it up, and I think I got a spare steel rim I can throw under this. Pretty cool little car. Factory buckets in it. Oh, what do we got? There's the missing hubcap. And what? There's the missing center cap for the missing hubcap. What else we got in here? An old broom. Probably, we got keys. In Copart fashion. Let's do a trunk reveal. See if our missing wheel is in there. What do you know about that? Another hubcap. At first glance, it looks surprisingly solid. All right, we'll work on getting this thing in the shop at some point this week. Surprisingly, I had a 14-inch GM wheel buried in the snow. Maybe it shouldn't be surprising. Okay, I don't even know half of what I got buried in the snow here. Anyway, let's see what this thing is all about. Since admittedly I suffer from focusing sometimes, if I don't come out here and try and start this briefly, it'll distract me all day. Just gonna give it a quick little, just a little burst there. We're just gonna turn it over. Fluids are all topped off. Everything looks decent. Oh, let's just see what we get. Battery's crap. But in addition to the battery being crap, yeah, it's not making any attempt at popping over, which means we probably have a spork issue. So we'll have to check for fire next. That's gonna have to wait because I do have work in the shop. Damn this job and responsibility. Update on the Le Mans. Decided to pull the distributor out and clean it up, and figured it'd be easier to put the Pertronic stuff in there on the bench rather than leaning over the fender. I'm glad I did, because as I was spinning the motor over to set it up on number one, it stopped turning. And there's why it stopped turning. We got a few teeth missing. Not a huge deal, although I couldn't find a listing for that gear online. I'm sure they're out there, but a replacement distributor through Napa is only $45. Here's my concern. I continued to turn the engine over with the distributor out of it because I wanted to get a look at what the cam gear looked like. And on one of the cam gears, on just the very top, there is a chunk missing. So a couple of things come to mind. A, what happened and why did it happen? And two, can I get away with throwing a distributor in it, and will it run? Now, I don't know how I would feel about trusting that long term with that damaged cam, but it would be nice to start the thing up and see how it runs before I invest any more time or energy in it. Obviously, my instinct is you don't put a cam and lifters in a straight six 250 motor. I don't. I swapped to a V8. That's come on. You know, it is kind of cool that the car is a 6-cylinder. though. It's kind of a unique packaged car. You know, 6-cylinder, convertible, power windows, power top, AC car on a convertible. I mean, it's kind of unique. It looks like somebody had to have ordered it that way. So anyway, I'm in a holding pattern at this point. So let's move on to something else until that distributor comes in. All right, so here's where we're at. We got the little 6-cylinder. I just pulled the #1 spark plug out. Got that wheeled around up onto the compression stroke, and then we got the #1 cylinder on top dead center. That's how we line up our distributor. That's where #1's supposed to be on the cap. So we'll get that distributor in there with the rotor facing in that direction. First, I'm going to put the Pertronic stuff on the new distributor, and then we'll get this set up and see if this thing's got any fire in her. Okay, so we got our brand new distributor for the Lemans, and we're going to pull out these nice brand new shiny points and condenser, and I'll hold on to them. I'll keep them to the side, but we are going to convert this over to electronic. In this particular case, it's a 256 cylinder, so you're looking at Pertronic's 1162A. That is our kit. And what we have to do is remove all of this. Pretty straightforward install. You could actually just pull the whole backing plate off, but I'm going to separate this stuff and I'll keep it, because you never know when you're going to have another car that's going to need it. Oh, interesting. It's got a little bit different than the original distributor. Although the original distributor, somebody had taken parts and pieces out of it, so who knows. There's your point setup right there. And we're going to take our whole backing plate assembly off, which is connected to the vacuum advance. Eyesight. So there you go. I'll lift that whole assembly right off of there. You see your centrifugal weights underneath. All brandy new. That's nice. Who doesn't like nice brandy new stuff? And here's your Pertronic plate that's going to replace the original plate. In the same way, you place it on there, connected to your vacuum advance. We'll just screw this back in here. And there goes the heater. Pretty simple and straightforward. All right, one little item I did forget to mention. You've got to hook your little ground strap up when you're bolting your plate up. 2 original screws from the distributor hold that plate on. You got your little ground wire. Next thing you know, we're going to fit your little electronic module here. On this 256 cylinder distributor, it really only fits one way. The other way, there's a rivet in the way, and it's right up against the shaft. So we're going to place that right there. A couple of nuts supplied, and we're going to bolt that down. So you add your ground wire to the module. And right now, we're just going to be putting these nuts on there loosely because we're going to make some adjustments. They claim you have to file down the distributor for the grommet, although it looks like I have clearance. We'll check that though. So we're just going to hand tight these nuts in there. position that ground wire so that it's not in the way of anything, like the distributor cap. Gonna look a little something like that. Alright, next thing we got to do is place this magnetic sleeve on. It really only goes on one way, but if you look inside there, it's got the shape. It's got the little eccentrics on it. According to the instructions, you kind of have to give it a feel as far as where it's going to drop down before you press it down. Yeah, I guess I feel that. Well, hell! Yeah, it's a little tight, that's for damn sure, but you just make sure before we force it. Why they wouldn't have you put that on first? Pertronics. It feels like basically every couple of inches it drops down, but at any rate you want to get it down over the eccentrics. Okay, once that's in place, what's the next step? Well, I'm going to tell you. Alright, so once you get your magnetic sleeve on there, sorry I got interrupted, somebody was banging on the door. You get your magnetic sleeve installed on there. They give you this little, basically it's a feeler gauge. You can slip it in there. This is just to establish your air gap, obviously. In this case, it's a little bit tight, so we're going to push that. There's not a lot of adjustment there per se, but we're going to leave that feeler gauge in there, and then we're going to tighten these nuts down. That will be our next step. Okay, we've got our two nuts snugged down. Pull our feeler gauge out of there. They want you to just, you know, run it through a few revolutions. Make sure everything's smooth, which it is. You want to make sure that that magnetic sleeve is not rubbing on your module. So interestingly, they say, let's see, I mean, I checked this earlier, but they say you got to file down the distributor to get this grommet to work. Yeah, I guess so. It sticks up a little bit above the surface, and they don't want you to pinch the wires in there, basically. You think they would have you do that first, before you put this thing all together. So we'll put a little relief in that. There's just a little notch there for the grommet, for the two wires. So let me just file that down a little bit, get that smooth, and then we'll move on to the next thing. Now, I don't know if you guys can see that, so we just add a little notch there. And basically that's just, you put this grommet in there. Again, it sits flush. Kind of get your wires in a position where they're not interfering with anything. Put your grommet in, and then just double check it with the cap. You see there's a little spot on the cap to indicate where it goes. So we'll go like that. And that looks good there. Basically what they don't want you to do is pinch up against these wires, flattening them or jamming them into the body of the distributor, which would eventually, over time, I suppose, short them out. That looks pretty good to me. I'm going to just move these wires a little bit here. You can just pull them through the grommet. I'd say that's about that. We're going to put the rotor on, obviously, and then we'll head back to the car and pop this in and see what we get. All right, quick tip. The one thing I did do is as I was routing these wires and setting the grommet up, every time I would put pressure on the grommet, it would pop these wires up. It's just a little bit too high for my comfort because, you know, you're going to have the rotor spinning around in there. You want them out of the way. 1 drop of crazy glue. and just press them down for a second, and that'll keep them out of the way. That'll make me feel a little bit better about that. I know some of you are going to say, points are awesome, they're easy, you can fix them on the side of the road, blah, blah, blah. I don't disagree. I enjoy points. You know, I grew up on those kind of cars. However, on this particular car, 6-cylinder with air conditioning, the AC compressor is positioned such that I had to remove the AC compressor to pull the distributor. And in fact, when it's in the car, you can't pull the distributor cap up without hitting the AC compressor. Now, if you remove all of the wires, you can fight with it and get it loose. I mean, it's not really the greatest design, but this would not be an easy fix on the side of the road, is my point. No pun intended. Having said that, I would throw these in the glove box anyway. You know, as a kid driving these cars, I started driving in '82. I only drove cars from the 60s and 70s. So we always had points in the glove box. Points, you carried a ballast resistor, you carried an ignition coil, a couple of spare wires in the trunk. You know, you always had spare parts. You know, we were always driving junk anyway. So, but that was always, you know, being a mechanic as a young kid. That's just something you always did. All right, let's get this thing in and get it fired up. Okay. Let's see what we got here. Let's clean that up a little bit in there. That's just a little greasy grimy in there. And we're going to install our rotor because we want to see where our number one is going to be set up. It's going to go like that. So we're going to want number one set up over that way right there. Just about right there. I'm not sure. Let me see how this position's in there. I guess like that. We need room for our vacuum advance to swing around in there. I'm going to have to go back, and I don't remember exactly what configuration it was at. I don't know that I even have a picture of it for that matter, though. Assuming that's enough swing there. And maybe go back one more tooth. Now, of course, we're not going to get it to sit in the. It's not going to sit in the. Oil pump. Alright, let me pull that back out for a minute and just see if I can figure out exactly how that sat in there originally. Alright, so I went back and looked and see how we had the distributor was sitting in there previously, and yeah, to get it to where I want it, and because we've spun the motor over, you know, we got to just clock the oil pump so that the distributor drops in and lines up with the oil pump basically the way we want it to. And this sometimes takes a couple of shots. Let's see what we got here though. Let's see how lucky we are. That's one ore. That's not quite where I want it. That's kind of where I want to be. You know, I need room to swing the distributor to set the timing without hitting, you know, for example, that fuel line right there that is right in the way. And we're not quite there yet. It's not dropping down into the oil pump. So let's see. Looks like we gotta bring it clockwise a little bit more. And I'm just taking a flathead screwdriver and sticking it down into that slot that the distributor lines up with in the oil pump. That's all I'm doing. See if we can get it where we want it. Boom. Drop down in. There's our number one is going to line up. I don't know if you guys can see that screw. We got plenty of sweep on either direction. We'll tuck our wires in here now. Okay, there's our distributor. There's our rotor facing that way. Here's our cap with our number one in yellow. Basically like that right there. And man, that's a pretty sight. Of course, this screw alright, not bad. I'm pretty happy with that. We'll get our distributor hold down. Boy, look at that. That's what it comes with. We'll get the hold down on there just loosely and just because we're going to want to adjust our timing, but I guess I should have had that light on previously for you guys. Can't quite see what I'm doing over there. We're going to clean up this coil mess next. Pull the wires off. I got plugs, wires, obviously cap and rotor, and a new curl. We'll get rid of the two coils that they have here. If I can get this hold down started. There she goes. Once we get her fired up, obviously we'll throw a timing light on it. Alright, let me snug that down and we'll get rid of some of this excess baggage here. Alright, so Let's get a... Wow. Let's get rid of this baggage here. Just kind of looking and seeing what we got going on. Oh, shit. Obviously, that was the coil they were using. That's crazy. That's just crazy. Yeah, that's it. I didn't figure that would be too tight. Alright, that's your ignition. I'm just trying to see what we got going on here, where they wired it, how they wired this. Obviously that went to the distributor. What do they got here? That is nothing. There's a wire wrapped up amongst itself. I always wonder, you know, you come across stuff like that, it's like, what were they doing? It's an extra wire there. Well, I'm sure what they were trying to do is troubleshoot the ignition, not realizing that the gear had gone in the distributor was the problem. Doesn't look like they ever quite got that far. Jesus, I mean, this is cooked right on there. Yep, one's always got a break. He's wrapped around the AC compressor. Wrestle this octopus out of here. Like, what the hell? All right, we got this this bracket here. I guess I'm gonna have to look up some pictures and see. Ironically, this hokey thing looks factory more so than this does. Alright, well, I'm going to get that off of there, and then we'll figure out where we're going to mount the new one. Alright, so at any rate, I was able to find one picture online. The issue with where the coil mounts is because this is an AC car, so they have to reposition the coil. Ordinarily, the coil would mount straight up and down right here. The one picture I found showed it just kind of popping up just directly behind the distributor, so I imagine they used that plate. This is not the right bracket. I'll have to, I guess, modify it, and we'll figure it out. But unfortunately, I'm going to have to mount the AC compressor back up before I can figure that out. So at any rate, in the meantime, I'm going to pull the plugs out of it, replace the plugs. I was hoping not to have to go through all this. I really wanted to have it all set up without the AC compressor in the way, but not the end of the world. I probably shouldn't be getting too crazy anyway. These plugs are not in terrible shape, but they look like they were replaced. I mean, obviously they were replaced at one point, but again, I don't want to get too far ahead of myself because we have no idea how this thing runs or anything about it. So we're putting a certain amount of money and a certain amount of effort into the unknown. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to get the new plugs put in there. I'm going to set up my ignition wires, and then I'm going to mount the AC compressor back in place, and then I'll see about sizing in that coil. You know, I suppose I can just prop it up somewhere in the meantime. And not that I have to do all that. You know, I could just hook the coil up and see if the thing fires up with the compressor laying right there. But I want to exhibit a certain amount of confidence in the Lemans. Maybe I shouldn't, though. All right, let's see what we got. All right, well, here we are 2 days later. We got interrupted, and then I pulled out the wires and realized they had shorted me 3 wires, and we went on to other things. So let's try getting these wires on. Just gonna lay them out here. Hook them up to each spark plug. And we're going in order of length, obviously. Furthest from the cap or the longest. Well, we were working on this on Saturday, and it was snowing, 5 inches of snow. And here we are Monday. It's currently 55 degrees, and I have the doors wide open if you hear any noise. All right, so we've marked number 1 on the distributor cap with a yellow mark there. Our firing order, this distributor rotates clockwise. Firing order is 153624. So we got number 1 moving clockwise. We got 5. Then we got tree. Then we got 6. Then we've got number 2. And last, number 4. All right, wires are all hooked up. We got our coil wire right here. We'll put that in. Our coil is going to, as I've mentioned, we're going to mount it right behind the, excuse me, right behind the AC compressor. I actually ordered a different bracket. I was just going to bend this one up and make it work, but I ordered a different bracket since we had extra time. So that's next. Let's go ahead and let's get this AC compressor mounted back up. It's a little bit of a challenge because, like I said, it sits right on top of the cap and basically pushes down on the wires. It's kind of a shitty setup. Excuse my language. Oh, good God! The freaking thing weighs a ton too. You know, it's just not well thought out. Or maybe it is. Maybe GM thought, who the hell's going to order AC on a 6-cylinder engine? And here we are. All right, well, in the interest of not wanting to wait for coil bracket to come. I went ahead and wired up the coil real quickly, just zip tied it to the side of the block there. We've got everything hooked up. We've got our ignition hooked up. I'm going to throw a jumper pack on it, and we're just going to spin it over a few times, see if we get any kind of protest out of her. And actually, what I think what I'll do is turn the ignition on, and I'm just going to go ahead and turn it over with the remote starter. Since that's still wired up here, I figure why not be out here and see what's going on with y'all. That positive terminal looks like crap. Tension on that. That's a little better. So let's give it a quick little shot of some starting fluid. And let's just spin it, see if we get it to sputter at all. Yeah, we do. The bumper's rattling just a little bit. Surprise, surprise, surprise. She's got some life left in her. That's good to know. Now we can do a little finessing to it. We're gonna see we can keep her right on. I'm gonna have to check the fuel source, make sure we got some decent fuel in there, and we'll get a timing light on her, and then we'll see if we can get this kitten to purr. I just want to show you guys this because I have not even put a timing light on it yet. I just reached under there and tweaked the distributor a little bit, give it a little bit more timing. I will say I am thoroughly impressed with the little 256 cylinder. She is literally purring like a kitten. Alright, so I let it warm up a little bit, threw a timing light on it real quick, got it adjusted. Pretty happy with the way it runs right now. Here's what we got. Contact! I don't remember the last time I saw one of these little 6-cylinders run that smooth. That's the advantage of having a good, solid, dependable spark, though. All right, we're going to dump some fluids on it and see how the transmission works next. All right, Saturday morning, just pulled the Lemans in. It's a rainy day, so I'm going to toy around with this a little bit. You know, I'm trying to keep this just a low budget, fun kind of rat rod project. So I'm looking for some used rims, but today I'm focusing on the horrible sag that this thing has in the rear. And I had looked around. I was just going to throw some spacers under the coils, but to be honest with you, the spacers are like $50. So I got a brand new set of coils for I think $70. So it just didn't seem to make sense to me to go the cheap route. Went for a little bit more, we could throw coils in it. So that's what we're going to do now. We're going to throw some coils in this thing, see if we can boost this up just a little bit, at least make it level. Let's see what we got here. Let's do a before and after measurement. We are currently 23.5 to the bottom of the molding. You guys can see that. It's actually, yeah, about 23.5. She's a low rider. About the same on this side. We'll pump those air, put some air in that tire too. So let's throw a set of coils in this thing. See what kind of results we get. Do a little before and after. Ain't that a son of a gun. Snap that stud right off there without any effort whatsoever. Just made this a little bit more of a pain in the ass. I'm not sure I have any of this studs around, but let's see what we can do. Let's see what we can do to correct that. Wasn't much need for that. And here, getting them out is not nearly the chore as putting the new ones in. It definitely helps if you have an extra person to hang on the rear end, but in this case, we do not. In this case, we do not. So, we're going to make the best of it. Jump on the computer real quick and see if I can get shock studs for this thing. Fancy. A little bit of a noticeable difference, I would say. And my only concern would be, honestly, is that, well, besides trying to get them in there, which is going to be a pain in the ass, my biggest concern is going to be that it raises it up too much. I hope not. But let's see. So yeah, you can see the difference in the two coils. According to Moog, now I know there's a lot of debate on this, and I remember reading several articles about it in the past. With the variable rate springs, Moog recommends the tighter coils face the top. So right now that spring is actually upside down. Again, there's a lot of debate, and at the end of the day, the spring rate is going to be the same. But if Moog says you install the thing with the tighter coils facing up, then you install it with the tighter coils facing up. All right, let's see if we can fight to get that thing in there. Ugh. Many moons ago, when I started my automotive career back in the 80s, we used to sell a lot of these. That was just a general upgrade for a coil spring car, working in shop. it was always a two-man job. Somebody would lean on the pry bar, and somebody else would slip the coil in there. Unfortunately, it's a one-man job today. Let's see if we can jack up. I'm going to jack up this side. See if we can get a better angle at it, so I don't kill myself. And I got a customer here. Oh, how is that going to fit in there? That's how it's going to fit in there. Just like that. The trick is going to be getting it up over the coil mount. Jack this up just a little bit more, if we can. There she goes. Piece of cake. Piece of cake. All right. And then, of course, I had to order a couple of shock studs online because nobody had them locally, but we're going to just, this car's not going anywhere in the next few days, so we're going to go ahead and just hook the shocks back up to the studs so we can let this thing down and get an after measurement and see what kind of difference they made. Well, of course it looks extra janky with those 14-inch wheels on there, but hopefully it's not too high. It looks like it's got just the right amount of rake. Let me get a better angle here and we'll do a measurement. Man, we have just not gotten a break with the weather this spring. That's still early though. It's actually April 1st today. Lemans is back in the shop. Gonna replace those shock mounts in the back that busted when I was putting the coil springs in. And then we're going to throw the rims and tires on it, which is the moment I've been waiting for. I don't know about you guys. I can't wait to see how this thing looks with some big meats on it. So let's get to getting on that. All right, so those are on. Pretty self-explanatory. Replace those studs, drop it down now, rip these 14-inch wheels and tires off of here, and put the 15-inch rallies on, and I'll give you a little after shot. All right, well, I love the wheels. Wheels fit it real well. Don't love the stance at all. Definitely too high in the rear. I was hoping with the bigger front tires that would level out some. That thing needs to come down at least 2 inches in the rear. Right now it's got an 80s nosebleed feel to it. So we're gonna have to figure that out. Just not quite sure how I'm going to do that. Yeah, much better. That's exactly the stance I was looking for. It was too tall in the rear with those other coil springs, so we did some finagling. Put the original ones back in, put a spacer in there. I mean, it's not ideal, but that's the stance I was looking for, and this is supposed to be low budget, so. All right, on to the interior. All right, so we're on the Le Mans. We got the top down. It won't go back up, so I'm gonna have to work on that switch. Got a window that won't go down. Work on that. But I wanted to go fuel the thing up. Good Lord, there's a spider living in there. Just stuck his ugly little head out. Oh, there he is. That's a little creepy. So anyway, he's a little aggressive too. Back off! So I was going to take this down the road and just put some gas in it, but geez, it's just, there's all sorts of debris in this freaking thing, and mouse poo and everything else. So, and some evergreen stuff. Yeah. So anyway, I want to hit this with the, is that a French fry in there? Of course it is. I'm going to just hit this with the vacuum before I take it out for a spin. Well, I'll say this about the Le Mans. This thing runs and actually drives like an absolute dream. Not a squeaker or rattle in it, which is just kind of hilarious. I think I'm going to enjoy this thing for the summer. Oh, cops.